It's my favorite time of month. It's time for Sonnet's Maker's Box. And this month's box was so inspirational and meant so much to me that I actually forgot to take pictures of all the products. The inspiration is let your creativity wave a little red, white, and blue. And the box is filled with vintage Americana. I come from a military background. I have military members throughout my family, and this box meant the world to me. I'm Sylvia with Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. So let's just roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. For project 1, I am using this little tin planter that, I don't know, I picked up somewhere along the way. And there's a lot of them out there, especially like in the dollar stores. And I started out using the conning method, and I used extra bond, and I just covered all the metal on the planter using the Kent Bespoke Sweet Pickens milk paint from the box. Using approximately a 1-to-1 ratio, I mixed up this beautiful blue milk paint. And again, it's called Kent. And I gave the planter 2 coats of milk paint after the extra bond from Sweet Pickens had dried. When using milk paint, I know it takes 2 coats, so I just had to practice my patience while it dried. I didn't use any heat. And I also made sure to give the inside of the planter 2 coats also. Using the tear method, I ripped out an oval shape around Connie the Painted Photographer's Star Stripes and Summer Blooms rice paper. And I just wet my paintbrush, went around the image, and used my fingers to give it that ripped, jagged tear. Using some white linen chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, I actually painted the back of the rice paper. I wanted the white behind the image in order to make it brighter. However, I didn't want to paint the tin since I had such jagged edges. Using DIY liquid patina, I adhered the rice paper to the tin. After it had dried, I also made sure to go over the top of the rice paper and the edges to make sure it was completely and securely attached to the tin. Using the marquee paint from the box, which is a beautiful red, I gave the wood handles 2 coats of the marquee paint. After all the paint was dry, using Sweet Pickens dark oil, I applied the dark oil over I believe I started with the inside of the bucket. I allowed it to dry approximately, 10-20 minutes. And I also covered the bottom of the bucket, and I removed the excess oil. I always do the insides and the back pieces, bottom pieces, just so that it is fully complete. And then I did the outside of the pail and the handles, and I just used a paper towel to wipe off the excess oil, making sure it sat for a minimum of, 10 to 20 minutes for the paint to absorb. For project 2, I'm using this stool that I picked up for $3 at a local garage sale. And it was pretty sturdy and solid. I love these stools, and they're such a quick turnover, and they don't last long at my shop. Using the DIY Hey Sailor Blue, I painted the entire bottom and sides of the stool. Using Vaseline and a paintbrush, I just randomly applied Vaseline all over the blue Hey Sailor DIY paint. The Vaseline keeps the next layer of paint to adhering, and it just makes it so much easier to sand off. So I have that multi-layered effect, or you can see the multi-layered paints. And like all my projects, I did the same technique on the bottom of the stool. Using the Paisley by Fusion Mineral Paint, I was able to give the stool a coat of paint on top of the Vaseline and the Hey Sailor, and it only took one coat. Using white linen by Rust-Oleum Paint, I painted the seat of the stool before applying a decoupage paper. Just helps the decoupage paper appear brighter. Using a sanding sponge, I went around the whole stool, taking off distressing the Paisley paint back. Then I used a baby wipe to remove all the excess paint dust. I used recycled decoupage paper, Vintage Old Glory, and I measured the stars to the stool, cut it with my scissors. I dampened the decoupage paper with my misting bottle, and using DIY liquid patina, I covered the whole stool, and I just applied the whole decoupage paper to the stool at once. Normally with that size, I would go in sections, but I must have been in a zone and I just covered it all at once. So I laid my paper down and I smoothed it out with my fingers. And I knew if I had too much wrinkling, I could always use an iron with parchment paper to iron it out. But at this point, I was able to manipulate the paper with my fingers. I was able to smooth out the wrinkles, and I didn't need to iron the bench. Once the decoupage paper was applied, I gave it another coat of the DIY liquid patina to ensure it was sealed. I used the sanding sponge again, and in an up and down motion, I went around the whole top of the bench and removed the excess paper. Using Sweet Pickens dark oil wax, I covered all of the Fusion mineral paint, and the Hey Sailor. Let it sit for approximately 10 to 20 minutes, and I just used a paper towel to wipe off all that excess wax. And I am really loving the Sweet Pickens oils. If you have not tried them, I highly suggest giving it a shot. Using the golden matte medium, I gave the top of the bench or the stool a coat. It's a thicker medium, and I wanted to help protect the top of the stool. For project 3, I had picked up this little white tote at our local thrift store. I think I paid a whole $1.99 for it. I loved the Milk Paint Kent by Sweet Pickens, so I just gave the whole tote a coat, 2 coats of the Kent. I did the bottom and the inside also. Using Marquee by DIY, I painted the handle. I used white linen. No, I didn't even paint it. I apologize. I went straight in with the DIY liquid patina, wet down the decoupage paper using the same paper, the vintage Old Glory, only the stripes this time with a little bit of the stars. And I applied the decoupage paper to both sides of the tote. Once the decoupage paper was adhered, I sealed it again with the DIY liquid patina. Using a lighter, I burned off the edges of the excess decoupage paper. I do have water handy in case I lost control of the flame. I do not recommend doing this inside, more of one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of things. And then I sealed the whole project with liquid patina. I sanded off the edges of the tote. Then I decided to go back to the Sweet Pickins dark oil again, and I covered the whole tote with the dark oil. And again, I did the bottoms, the handle, and the bottom of the tote. Once the tote was covered, I did allow it to sit for 10 to 20 minutes. It just gives it time for the paint to absorb the oil. And Sweet Pickins and DIY does need to be sealed. And I wiped off the excess with a paper towel. And I would love to know which one of these projects was your favorite. And if you're not getting the Maker's Box, I highly recommend it. And I will leave a link below where you can skip the waiting line and grab your box today. If you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.